What's good, guys? Nadeska, Akademiks, and Wayno back here again on Everyday Struggle. Hopefully you guys are having an amazing week so far. How you guys doing?
Wednesday, man. Wednesday. Been a good week so far, at least for me.
Yeah, my week has been pretty cool, except for this whack-ass weather. This weather is horrible. It's 44.
It's sunny outside this morning.
44 degrees this morning.
He's on a completely different planet than we are. That's good,
Yeah,
though. It's sunny wherever you are. That's all that matters.
The temperature's wherever the fuck I'm at, because I'm inside.
all the time.
Wherever I put a thermostat to. If I want it to be 80, it's 80. If I want it to be 60, it's 60.
Heard you.
Magic of
Well,
AC.
we're glad you leave the house for this show, Akademiks. We appreciate you.
I would do it from the crib if we could just Skype me in.
I feel like we're going to have some emergency Skype episodes at some point. More sick days.
Eventually.
More sick days on Everyday Struggle. All right, shall we get into it?
Yeah, what we get into?
Starting with the very important story today, ladies and gentlemen. On Tuesday, Lil Pump hopped on Instagram story to let his followers know that he's accomplished more at 18 than a lot of other rappers. He says, quote, "Nobody has done what I've done at the age of 18. I broke records on YouTube, platinum records," so you could read the rest of the text on the screen. Now, obviously, he's had some big milestones. Gucci Gang, of course, over 914 million views on YouTube, certified platinum. I Love It with Kanye did really well when it debuted, one of the biggest hip-hop video debuts in YouTube history. Both of his albums have debuted in the top 10 on Billboard. Some other people who have done really well, though, before they were 18, Bow Wow did really well. Lil Wayne, of course, was making hits. Chief Keef, Yachty is doing well. Kodak Black. So is Lil Pump way, way, way up there in terms of accomplishments for someone 18 years old?
What you got to say about this shit?
Wayno got hit me with disgust. He would have laughed. Wayno, now I want to hear what you got to say, Wayno. I have some very provocative thoughts.
Provocative thoughts.
Yeah.
Prolific, indeed.
What up? I mean, like, I just look at it like, what has he done? I feel like Lil Pump is a sore winner right now. For real. Like, he's successful. He's doing a lot of things, but nobody asked or gives a fuck about what you did. The thing is about what have you done today? What did you do last week? All of that. So I broke all these records and this, that, and the third. Nobody's gonna remember. Like, people gonna remember. They probably remember Gucci Gang, but they're not gonna remember. They're gonna remember some kid with tattoos on his face did it. But to say that he broke all these records and nobody's done what he's done, like nobody care about what he's done. Like, at least I don't. Nas wrote Illmatic at 17. Like, for real, that's something that's remembered for longer than this kid's been alive. So for him to just say, I don't know where he's directing that energy to. So I don't want to just say that he's being totally negative. Maybe he's directing that at another rapper. But if you're talking about overall in the game, like, what has he done? Like,
Ak, where do you think this energy is coming from?
Well, he made a video following up, also bragging about his new $15,000, some type of fancy nigga shades. But pretty much he was saying that all you old heads who are criticizing me, because let's be clear, the talk of like Instagram and Twitter when Pump's name is mentioned these days is that he's fallen off a bit. Like, again, Gucci Gang was 2 years ago.
But this is coming from older rappers, quote unquote?
No, well, it's not really older rappers. I think he's looking at the people criticizing him like, yo, if y'all criticizing me, y'all wasn't into my music anyway. So if y'all are saying that I fell off, maybe y'all just don't, y'all haven't listened, or you haven't heard that song that you identify me by. But he's answering to them. And, you know, he's 18, so like how he deals with shit on social media, it's hard for me to like super criticize him, but like he is in that spotlight where you're gonna get criticized. I think that this is like a sinking ship, right? Like, you know somebody isn't as hot as they were, and then when you point it out to them, they make a bigger stink of it and bring up the stuff that, yes, is a byproduct of fame, but it's not an indication of where you currently are in your career. So he's like, which I mean I fell off. I got the most money ever. Like who's made more money than me now? What are you talking about? But again, I think people are just trying to say this don't feel the same. Keep in mind, he went to this whole thing with Warner, signed the big deal. His album came out, a lot of expectations. People thought, okay, hey, even compare him just among his peers. Is he gonna level up? Is he gonna at least have some progression? And while his album wasn't like completely terrible, it's what you would expect from Lil Pump in terms of those type of trying to be anthem-like songs, it only did like 42,000 records first week. So for someone who's gonna be demanding and commanding that huge contract as he was boasting and bragging about, it was a little bit underwhelming. And when you don't have another big song other than the one that was assisted by Kanye, things might look a little different.
See, this is why your deals and all that shit shouldn't be disclosed, because for me, seeing PNB Rock doing 42 after not having something for a while is sort of is a win for him, where Pump is a L. Reason why for Pump is a L is because everybody, like, I mean, I didn't expect anything from his album. I don't listen to his music, but for him to have such a big deal in this bidding war and all of that shit, you thinking that most people think that when an artist is being sought after like that, the music is gonna mean something, and his shit don't really mean nothing. The thing about Pump is like, all of this about how I got money. He's like the dude that's in the nice car that the girl that's walking that he's trying to bag don't give a fuck about. Like, for real, like, you know, like she be like, nah, I'm cool. Be like, bitch, I got this. Like, you know how people, like, dudes get defensive and shit. So I just think that he's, like you said, I think he feels his decline a bit and he's panicking. Like, he sounds like he's panicking. You know what I mean? He's hiding it behind $15,000 shades. Nobody give a fuck about your shades. And real quick, I don't want to keep holding shit to him being 18, because I feel like 18-year-olds of today are like 10-year-olds like 10 years ago. Like 18-year-olds used to be mature in certain eras. He's very just immature.
And who are we comparing him to, Ak, if you're speaking about his peers? Like, who should he be stacked up against?
Yeah, I mean, his peers, honestly, the Uzis of the world, like, you have to look at the younger rappers.
Like, I think Uzi make way better music than him.
No. When I mean his peers, I'm just talking about in terms of other artists that were new at the time when he was also new. You get me? And because that's the only real way to kind of judge if you're keeping up with a certain pace.
He was on the freshman cover, right?
Yeah.
He was on the cover with?
He was on with Smoke Perp. He was on with
Stefan Don.
Was Lemire on that one?
Wi-Fi's funeral, a bunch of that.
Smoke Perp, Ugly Guy was on that one.
JID. Like,
no, actually Ugly Guy was on the year before with X. JID. But still, like, you know, even shit, I spoke to him himself. Like, he felt like he was the star of that cover. You feel me? And when that's the sentiment you have among that year, because the freshman cover for each year is
Boy JB, Trippie Redd is on here too.
Yeah, so the freshman cover for each year is like, yo, who are the brightest and best young stars? So if you feel you're like the fucking LeBron of that class or whatever.
Was he the LeBron of this class?
That cover is not aging well. That cover's not aging well.
Bro, it's like we haven't seen him.
JID's doing great.
You know what's crazy?
A year is like fucking 5 years now.
No, but here's the thing.
What?
Like the best cover that's aged pretty well is the I believe 2015 cover with Uzi Nudy.
That's 2016.
That's 2016. All right, and then so that's aged pretty well. The rest of these, you know, like again, this is last year's cover. He was on last year's cover, and I mean,
looking funny in the light. Let me see this. It's looking funny in the light.
Ski Mask is solid. Ski Mask is solid. I still think Lil Pump is solid. Here's the thing, yo, perception will ruin your reality of just what music really is and the business of music. Gucci Gang was your breakout. Probably won't have that again. You might not have that infectious song that lasts for 8 months, just all over the place. You might have these cool songs that your fans fuck with, might have like a nice little feature here and there and it kind of like carries over, but it's not Gucci Gang. If you could accept that reality, when people say you've fallen off, you would realize you fell off from a peak, but you leveled out. You get me? It's a difference than falling off from a peak and you're constantly in decline where like his songs still do numbers on YouTube. You get me? But it's not Gucci Gang.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is
and he's never been an artist that's like done crazy amount of sales. It's kind of like, well, I hate to even say like Young Thug, but in terms of sales, but like for all the streams he does on YouTube, you would think, oh shit, you're gonna get a bunch of like album sales. It doesn't really translate.
Also, yeah, a catalog that ages well, even if it doesn't do numbers immediately, right? Like even going back to Thug's early projects, those age well. JID, someone's gonna have projects that age well.
Yeah, I just don't like even mentioning a Pump with a Thug, just because in terms of how they make music and how people still, like, a lot of people give a fuck about Thug's music, whether you call them old heads or young people, whatever. Like, people care about his shit. I don't know who really cares. Like, the thing about Pump is there's always another one of him coming. Like, to me, he's not very distinctive. And when it comes to making hit records, that's why you have to, if you're gonna be a person that just makes like records and records and records. You have to continuously do that shit over and over because you basically chasing the first high again, right? Like he's probably not going to get another Gucci Gang, but there hasn't been something that's been that close in my eyes. Like it hasn't been something that's been that close. Now numbers, he does tremendous numbers, but I'm just saying like his perception in the game. And then when you mix that with him saying, oh, y'all can suck my dick, yo, once you start doing that shit, it's no different than like the older dudes trying to fucking go back and forth with young kids on social media. You never win. So once you start doing that, it's like he's panicking. Like he's panicking.
He's gonna aim a lot of the vitriol or just like even defense mechanism that he's using when he's saying that type of shit to older people. Because I think a lot of people look at him as the poster child of what J. Cole was talking about in 1985. Like, yo, listen, he mapped out your career. You get me? Remember one of the things he did in the immediate aftermath of that verse coming out, he said, yo, I just bought a house. Like, what y'all talking about? You get me? Like, so, again, I think he's realizing when criticisms of like his career or just like of him come about, he feels it's coming from the older crowd. But I will say, and it was a couple weeks ago, I talked to Pump, and like he was playing me some shit like, at least what I've heard from the new things he has coming out, he's trying to be much more diverse, okay? So, and he seems pretty confident about that music. But it's one of those things where, again, he's 18, he's sitting on social media, like, again, he might pop up. He always pops up, like, with like a little social clip, and it's usually him saying something dumb, outrageous, whatever. I hate to excuse him for his age, but like, that's just like, Pump, right? And when people say, yo, we're talking about you for this, not your music. If you see that enough, you now become defensive to be like, what the fuck?
I mean, it's self-preservation. Self-preservation is key. First thing you're gonna do is that. But it's just like, I look at somebody like an X, right? Like, people try to put X into, like, everybody try to group everybody with dreads or do something weird, how they dress, into one group, right? X was miles away from him in terms of like the type of artist he was. Like, I just started really understanding his music a little bit more and appreciating it a little bit more recently. But it's like, when you compare the two, that was his peer, right? He might have had a big song, Pump might have had a big song, but his impact ain't nothing like X's.
No, of course. And I mean, I think that's what you realize. Like, we could talk about a bunch of those artists like that.
Yeah.
To get in the XXL cover, like, you get a big song, you could design your way on there. You feel me? But like, there's a difference between a Block Boy JB, a Lil Pump, and then like X had a big song to start off with too. Like, the majority of the world only knew him for Look at Me, and he was in jail. He got out, and then after that he kept doing other records. Actually, he found his biggest record later on, which was sad. So again, which was completely different from what we first heard of him with. So, you know, I think Pump is figuring that out, but it's a little bit unfair. I won't say unfair. He's going through kind of what Yachty went through, where like the example for older rappers in terms of newer rappers is that one token rapper. It was Yachty before, now it's Lil Pump.
Right.
It's definitely Lil Pump right now.
Yachty's doing his thing though, and he's making his transition, right?
But he dealt with it good.
Yeah, exactly. He was graceful. He was more graceful.
At first, he was kind of like, you know, he was kind of making certain comments, and man, I don't even know nothing about Biggie. Like, you get me? And that was, it felt like, yo, we're watching this ship sink faster and faster. You get me? But then I think
up on the Forbes list and seeing that nigga, but he was doing it. He wasn't just doing it with music. Like, he was doing it. This nigga was like a creative director for Nordica. Like that. Like,
yeah, he expanded the portfolio.
No, but he was wilding a little bit when he was getting, yo, you can't rap. Yo, you're only gonna be around for a couple of years.
Picking on him.
And then he kind of caught himself, and I think also a couple of OGs around him. You know, salute to, of course, you know, P and other people that are around his circle that kind of like kept him cool. And then he kind of, you know, transitioned through the rough waters. Now Pump, you know, Pump seems wild, unpredictable, and there's never like that chill, like mature moment you're gonna get from him. So
always getting way too much time today.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, like he has Akademiks to give him advice while you play video games, so that's good, right? All right.
Pump's the guy, man. Pump's gonna make it through, man. You just gotta chill
He's
out.
a nice kid. I mean, hopefully he figures this out. All right, so time for Fast Break. We want to highlight an artist that we think is making waves that you should look out for. So today's Fast Break artist is Young Nudy, 26 years old from East Atlanta, Georgia. So he's best known for his big songs Since When featuring 21 Savage that has over 9 million views on YouTube, Loaded Baked Potato, Do That, and Extendo featuring Lil Uzi. So he's had a few mixtapes. The most recent was Slime Ball 3 in August 2018. Then he dropped Faded in the Booth. That was a tape on SoundCloud back in April. And most recently, Slamere with Pierre Bourne. That came out this month. Features from 21 Savage, Uzi, Megan Thee Stallion, and DaBaby. So he was really starting to make waves, I think, back in 2016. The original Slime Ball mixtape dropped on SoundCloud that did over 6 million streams. Some of the tracks that popped were Spaced Out, Rough Life, and Yeah Yeah. And after that, he really started to gain some momentum. What do you guys like about Nudy?
I think so. Nudy's been around for a little while, but I think now he might feel new to some people because I think he's getting a little bit more recognition. Some people might have just known him yo, that's 21's homie. But if you've ever listened to Nudy, which I have, over the years, I actually caught on to Slime Ball 2, and I went back to listen to Slime Ball 1. Of course, 3 followed afterwards. He just has a dope, distinct way of rapping and putting shit together, and again, if you ever listen to even 21, 21, he has this flow. He has his own shit, and it's really infectious. Also, Nudy Land, I think that's when I realized I think this nigga could make some records. They're just not mainstream enough yet. But he has great synergy with Pierre Bourne. Anything they're usually on usually comes out good. That's why this project that came out, this one came out, and I mean, I've been waiting on him to have that one song that everyone knows about him, but even recently I seen on Instagram that apparently he might have a song with Drake coming out. Drake and J. Cole supposedly. I don't know.
Wow.
I seen a producer write a bunch of shit on a whiteboard, and it was Drake, Young Nudy, and Cole. And I'm really excited for that if it's true.
That would be a crazy look.
For Nudy, because I do think that's the only thing missing, yo. I think there's people who are dedicated Nudy fans, but if you don't know too much about him, he's not one of the people you'd be oh yeah, when he comes on the radio, I bump it, but I don't go out my way to listen. You're either a Nudy fan or you don't really know too much about him.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, so we haven't gotten a Drake and Cole collab in years, so if he's
Right.
on it, that's gonna be nuts.
I with Nudy. I heard about him. I heard about him before. I never really got a chance to really listen to his music. I've been catching up recently, but I like the fact that he's not under 21's shadow. It's that he's a part of Slaughter Gang or whatever the case may be because they're cousins, right? Yeah. But he's not got 21 on 4 different songs on this project, or he got every video is with him. It seems like he's really trying to make his own wave and make his own way without using 21, so to speak. I think that it's gonna be interesting to see what he could do from here. Only because there's no real expectation. It's ancillary, you know what I mean? It's ancillary, and then when we thinking about 21, 21 is doing all of this shit for himself. If we look up a year from now, Nudy becomes a star, then 21 looks like a genius. You know what I mean? Because you don't really see 21 in CEO mode. He's just really handling what he got to handle for himself. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes further, but I'm definitely in tune now. Okay. Definitely in tune.
All right, go check him out. Yeah, that new project is pretty dope. Streaming right now. So we got a couple quick hits before we get to some fan questions. Starting with some Eminem news. So he is tied Jay-Z for the 3rd rapper with the most top 10 hits. So let's see, his latest feature on Logic's track Homicide, that debuted at number 5. So that gives him a total of 21 songs in the top 10. As of now, Drake is leading the most top 10 hits with 33. Lil Wayne's second with 24, and J and M are tied at number 3 with 21 each. And we actually have a fan question. Do you think Eminem often gets overlooked for his achievements because he's not in the limelight like some other rappers are?
Not in the limelight. I mean, M has had his time in the limelight. I think that he gets, I wouldn't say overlooked. It's just that M does, every time he does something, he does it the same way. He never really changes anything about him. It's still the same Eminem. We joke last year about how he still do videos breaking up shit and all that. He was doing that 20 years ago. So I think that what gets overlooked is that you don't really see elevation in who he is. So you don't really pay it no mind. I mean, he's definitely a legend. If somebody has him in their top 5, I wouldn't be like, oh, you wildin', like, but it just isn't taken a certain way because the type of moves that he does outside of his music never really show as much as his music.
Not gonna lie, when it comes to achievements and accomplishments, basically musical stats, I would imagine that M would probably be topping most of these lists. Like I automatically assume M is. I would think M sold more albums than all those people on the list combined. I would think M, again, this is he tied Jay-Z. I was surprised that Jay was in third. You get me? Like, though Jay is a phenomenal rapper, you know what I mean? Probably the greatest ever. Like, when his name comes to mind, I don't think, oh, this is a guy with like one of the most top 10 records as a rapper.
I don't think about stats. You think about stats like when you.
I don't think about stats like that.
Stats, right? Doesn't he always talk like every single album he has been like a top debut? He mentions his
Number
stats.
one.
It
Every
crosses
album
my
he ever
mind.
does.
Well, that's albums, but he's
you're
not
talking
the
about,
guy
like,
who's like, yo,
numbers.
this is like, I don't think about Jay like that. But when I think about M, not that necessarily I dismiss his rapping abilities, not only think about stats, but I know that anything he's attached to, like, I mean, he did a joint album with Royce that did amazing. Like, if you really think about, like, there's so many people in the mainstream that aren't Royce the 5'9" fans, but it still did amazing just because M is attached. So I would imagine that, he probably has more songs on this. So I was shocked that he was in third. Drake and Wayne, clearly, of course, they've earned their due, and they're 1 and 2 respectively. But to be honest, when it comes to stats in hip hop, I would think M rules all that shit.
Well, M, like, of course, like he had D12 selling 1 million records every time they came out because he would do the single with them every time. But like, I think Drake, even with Drake being at the top of that list, that's because he doesn't just rap. I think if Drake, a lot of those records that went in or went top is because he sings and shit. If he was just rapping, I don't think it would be that high. I don't think it'd be that high. Like, him singing and shit puts him in a different class because his rap records go, but then his singing records usually go higher than his rap records.
I'd agree with that if we're talking about 5 years ago. I think anything Drake gets on these days.
Yeah, I mean, of
like,
course
I think
now,
streaming is so rigged for Drake. Like, Drake just really recently flirted with saying, yo, I might drop a freestyle for like Kawhi doing some bullshit. If he dropped that shit, I think he's doing top 10.
Yeah.
Like Milk Child by J. Cole. Of course, we really wanted some new J. Cole music. That went, I believe, top 15 or top 20. And that was top 10. So if J. Cole had a song like that was top 10, which is pretty much a freestyle.
That's why I think streams got to count higher, man.
Yeah.
You mean higher or lower? But here's the thing, though. So a nigga like Drake, then, you're going to have complete monopoly over the whole charts.
Absolutely. But the thing is, I'm just saying, like, who came up with the idea? Like, who's the board or who's the people that decided 1,500 plays equal 1 sale? Like that's just what I want to know. Is like, who came up with all of this? There's definitely no artist in the room when this is happening.
No. Well, I mean, of course, business people. So the metrics is, hey, how do we get $9.99 out of streams? And when they average everything, like, actually on YouTube, you probably need, like, it's not 1,500. You need about, like, almost closer to like 10 grand.
That's what I'm saying.
You get me? But on Spotify and Apple, because they're paid, it's much less, so they averaged it.
But that's why numbers is so tricky. Because when people say, oh, numbers don't lie and shit, numbers are very deceiving in this game now. They're very deceiving because a kid could have 1 million on YouTube and 1 million, just the number 1 million, what we've been taught our whole lives, like just from the lotto, all that $1 million, a million is this big number, and it's really not.
Yeah.
Especially when you count it in the music. 1 million is not really much, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But it'll make a lot of kids that think, all right, I'm doing something, and they're not even really scratching the surface. So it's like, who came up with this shit? Like,
all right, so we do have a streaming question. Should we just skip to it? Or you wanna, we can wrap up these quick hits and let's get to it. So I feel like Wayno has a lot of thoughts on this. Side note, Views came on my mix last night. I forgot that songs like Controller and stuff like that are on Views. To me, that was such like a melancholy album, but I forgot he had some like pretty upbeat, like mega hits on that too.
What I was gonna add, at least in terms of M, I'm surprised M gets still a very rabid response from his fans and like super high engagement. Like, whether, he's not a social media guy, like everything goes crazy.
Die hard
still,
fan base.
to this
he
day.
white, man.
I know. All right, they pulled up the question first. Let's do
Tell
this.
Yellow Wolf that.
Oh man. All right. So.
You see, that's the little disqualification. He white, man. Come on.
I'm not disqualified. I'm just saying, like, that
M fans don't dislike the
They
video.
No, but no, I'm just saying not that M don't put out no I'm not gonna say M ain't never put out no bad work, but M, he just has a core fan base, man. Like when he came out, he meant everything to I'm talking about middle America white kids that don't have a voice for nobody to speak for them, that come from the hood, because there's white people living in the hood. Eminem was that voice. And then he took it mainstream on another level. The motherfuckers grew up and never gonna stop loving him, like never.
Over the span of 20 years, a lot of times you see core fan bases kind of fade
Shit.
a bit. You get me? Like they'll still fuck with you. Maybe if you have like a tour that brings some nostalgia back, they'll fuck with you. But like they still go super fucking hard.
He's the first of his kind though. Like, and what I mean by that, like what I mean by is the type of rapper. Because to me, I think that he's the best white rapper ever. But he's like the first of his kind. Like there's a lot of white rappers before him, but he was the first that had like that respect factor from everybody. You know what I mean? Like there was white rappers when Jay and Nas was doing their thing. Nobody wasn't giving them no fucking kudos or nothing. M was the one that changed it all. So like he's the first of his kind. That's why it stays the way it stays.
You're right. He's like it was the Tiger Woods of the shit. Like it's one of those where like you don't like golf, but you love Tiger. Because there's mad M fans. No, for real. Yeah. There's mad M fans that don't like rap. Trust me. They don't know no other rappers, but they do love some M.
Yeah, you see them at the concerts.
Like, I don't even care about tennis. I love Serena.
Huh?
I don't care about tennis. I love Serena.
Okay.
Let's keep it chill.
All right, this is another good one.
All right.
All right, so let's get into this fan streaming question. You could continue that convo from 831 Mobster. Do you guys think streaming is ruining music in general? I remember in the iTunes days buying albums and sometimes not liking them at first, and they would later grow on me because I would listen to them. You know, I spent the $15. But nowadays with streaming, if you don't like a project, you aren't really forced to listen again and digest it properly compared to when you actually have to buy it. So we could talk about your numbers dispute here, but also this is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's pretty 50-50 though, in the sense of like, you know, before if you like if you bought an album, you were stuck with it, right? And it's like, damn, I spent my $15 for it. Now, when you spend 10, you have access to whatever you want to access, and you can listen to what you want to listen to. This is why when people complain about, yo, this person ain't on. No, they are on. You just got to spread the word and awareness. I think that it's 50-50. I think that it helps, but it also hurts, because at the same point, when we start talking about numbers, we start getting into numbers, and you look at people doing all these numbers, like A Boogie doing 900-something million streams, but selling 670-something thousand. That bothers me, because I think his sales should be higher than that. I think that his album is engaged on a high level. And I mean, I don't know this technical science behind how they do all the numbers. I don't know that part. But when I'm looking at this compared to that, it's almost like your fucking gross versus your net.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you look at your gross and you be like, damn, and you look at your taxes, your motherfucking healthcare, all that shit, you be like, damn, these motherfuckers just took all my bread. So I think that, you know, I don't know if they're ever gonna change that, but I think that stream should count higher in certain cases. Well, not certain cases, in all cases.
Do you agree? You're a math guy?
I mean, I think streaming is not helping artists as they think it is. Number one, you know, I think as time goes on, you know, the question's still gonna remain, what the fuck really, how are we fairly quantifying streams? But also you gotta think about where streaming came from. Streaming was a compromise to piracy.
Yeah.
So streaming came in because niggas was stealing music at a rapid pace. Cause what's that shit called? I forgot all of them. Rest in peace, all of them. I used to use them.
Napster and all of them.
Yeah, Napster and
LimeWire.
But like, the thing with streaming is I do believe, and I think even Cole touched on it a bit when he's rapping on like Mill Child. Like, there's that unpredictability factor of it, and I don't know if it deals with the artist more than the system. You get me? Like, what really makes something really popular? Is it really because the audience wants it? Is it really because of that? Or is it because fake streams? Is it because just these, it's being forced? Like, it's so much stuff that kind of makes something popular these days rather than fans actually choosing what they want.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing is that real engagement, you can't fake that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't fake engagement. It's like, it's an up-and-coming artist that I've been hearing about to sign some big deal and shit. And I've been hearing about them in the industry, and my man works on them. And then the other day I'm in the crib and my son is singing a song. And I'm like, how you know about that? He like, oh, my friend sent it to me. So that kid is getting real engagement. I could see because it's not just because my son, I'm asking him, I'm like, who did you get it from? He like, oh, one of my friends sent it, and like a lot of kids in my school is listening to it. So I think that like streaming does help because the way that we share, like the way that we share is like if I think something's funny, I could show it to you immediately, or I could just send it to you immediately.
Yeah.
So I think that we just have to figure out new ways into how we gauge not only where the money's coming from, but where these numbers at. Because there's always a trick to every system, right? There's always a trick to every system. That's why you got people faking their streams and shit, but you can't fake the engagement. You know, so.
But the real engagement then you see is at shows.
Is at shows or not only shows, but then merchandise.
Does merch count? Are we counting merch as official? Because people just also like to buy shit to wear.
Yeah, I'm not counting it as for sales. I'm just saying as engagement. So it's like, okay, kids go, everybody was up in arms about Travis shit, but kids go just as crazy for Travis's hoodie as they do for his music, as they do for his Jordan. So that's like the true engagement. Like when you go into, and Kanye said this shit, like, yo, Travis Scott, instead of him having a manager, he should have like business owners running him as an entire business. I think that makes sense because when you look at the engagement, he has it from a merchandise standpoint, he has it from a music standpoint, from a branding standpoint. That's how he could do so many different things. You know, but that all goes into initially where his streams, like, you know what I mean, like how big his music is getting from streams.
I mean, yeah, so you make some valid points in terms of like, yeah, it does help create these ancillary income streams. But one thing, and I think you can't, at least I'm looking at it from an artist perspective, you have to look at even how streaming makes the art and the actual music valueless in the minds of the fans. Like, the reason why A Boogie's get 900 million streams, yet his album, I believe it was the second week, it didn't even sell over, when he finally hit number one, he didn't have 1,000 pure sales. Because to most fans, they love the music, but it's not worth enough to feel like you're buying the music. But it's fine if you rather feel like, yo, you're paying to have Apple Music or Spotify, but to buy A Boogie's album, you're not gonna do it.
But the thing is, that's just downloading it, right? So I think that's another thing that needs to be touched on as well, because the sale is when you actually download the album, if you have Apple Music, right?
This will be off iTunes,
but you feel a lot of fans still do this, even if you're like a diehard fan. You know what I mean? You're already paying for the streaming service. You have it offline anytime that you want. Is that like a true measure of?
I mean, people do what's accessible or what's easy to them.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't make sense that, like, it's like a person trying to work out in their crib, right? No, because the couch is right there. It's too easy for me to sit down and not do it. Like, it's easier for me to just go on Apple Music and just play the shit as opposed to going and buying it. Because in their mind, me streaming it is me buying it. Yeah. Me continuously playing it is basically me buying it. But the thing is, the physical aspect is gone. That's where it's kind of tricky on a psychological level, because before you had an album, remember somebody break your fucking album or your shit gets scratched, you be sick, you be like, damn, I gotta go buy another one. Yeah. Now you can continuously play it and play it and play it. So the downloadable factor is like, who needs that anymore now?
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about how people just view like the art.
How they buy it.
You get me? Like
the art, but
just an art form of music. Like it's yeah, it does create these other things, but for a new consumer, you view it as valueless. You get me?
I say that for people who don't put time into their music, because No ID said this, right? Like, you don't just say you're an electrician and you're an electrician, right? So you can't just say, all right, I'm doing music now and now I'm a rapper. You know, because I just started doing music yesterday, now I'm a rapper, right? So I think that's where the fine lines get drawn, where people don't put time into their craft. Like, I'm not a big subscriber of a kid saying, oh, I started rapping 6 months ago. It's like, that doesn't make me say that, like, you're dope just because you started 6 months ago. And I think that people try to sell the whole, I just started doing this and I'm so good at it, as a sell to get people to engage in their music.
Yeah. So if I'm a rapper, like, even though, great, I'm getting these streams, like, you want to take advantage of all possible income streams, right? And yeah, so them streaming my music is cool, but of course I want my die-hard fans to buy it. Like, that's what I thought when Nipsey and of course even YG had their ideas of saying, we're gonna appeal at least first to like our core main audience, and you gotta have the people who really fuck with you realizing that even though music comes out like this these days, that your time is worth their money. Right. And of course, they show you in other ways. You know, so I guess you could say, yeah, merch this and third, they're coming to your tours, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's just nice to have something tangible that you could hold on to. Like he's saying, so the days of CDs are gone. Vinyls are still cool, you know what I mean? So maybe making the limited edition vinyl, because you're right. If it's already have access to all of this music, even if I'm a diehard fan, sometimes I'm not buying it just because I know I could go back and stream it whenever. But if they're like, yo, here's a limited edition vinyl with my autograph, something you can touch and hold, I would still want to purchase that.
But the thing about human beings are like, technology has ruined our engagement of almost everything, right? Like, that's too much for a person to turn on a vinyl machine or whatever, go get the shit out, put it. That's too much for a person.
Sad. I still do it though.
I mean, yeah, you do, but you were born in and grew up in a whole totally different era. Right. Like when I was a kid, CDs. When CDs was like a fucking state-of-the-art thing at one point in time, like a CD player, you was the man if you had a fucking book full of CDs. Before that, it was tapes, and things just keep eliminating each other. So the thing is like, the thing about Boogie embracing, well, I'm just keep speaking about Boogie because that's where we started it from a bit, but Boogie embracing the streaming shit it's not gonna be people actually pressing, all right, let me spend the $15, because why I'm gonna spend $15 on top of the $10 I'm already spending? You know what I mean? Like, people are not gonna do that. But that's why I'm saying that the streams gotta count for more, because for me, Boogie album it's gonna go platinum, but it should be platinum already. 900 million something plays and the shit is gold. It's only 170,000 units over gold. And 900 something million.
Yeah, the word valueless just makes it sound so dark, although it's a very good point. So just to wrap this up, like, you're a diehard Drake fan, but do you physically download, like pay to purchase his albums?
Oh yeah, of course.
Even though you stream them constantly, every time?
But see, that's the compromise for me. Like the people who I'm really big fans of,
you'll still buy
I'm
it.
copping Uzi. Like, actually, I cop a good amount of people's albums. You cop it, but it's copping is in the support.
Right.
Because I also know, like, even though, you know, Boosie's a character himself. Boosie was going off on his live like, yo, damn, oh y'all watch me, I do all this, but like if you don't support and not only by listening, if you don't pay to support what you like, that shit gonna stop. All right, in any form.
Yeah, something to consider as a fan, even if you have all the music subscriptions, just physically paying for the download for the artist that you really, really love. All right, we'll see. But yo, the streaming rules they're gonna keep changing. Right. So to your point, Wayno, let's see how that goes.
And one thing you gotta give streaming a little credit for, streaming brought music way further. Like now, the people who are consuming music, because it's so easy, like it's a click of a button, you don't have to buy a CD to check it out. You get me? It's like open up the demographics. That's why I think you might not see the numbers increase in terms of like how much streams is an album, because if Apple Music and Spotify are adding like 20, 30 million new people on their service every like 3 months.
Yeah, it would be insane.
It's gonna, say they reduce it, so it's not 1,500, it's now like 500. Drake is gonna be selling some ridiculous number.
It's a gift and a curse. It's like 50-50, because it's like, that's what I'm saying. Tomorrow, a kid, like, you could just buy a computer, all the shit, record yourself, upload it, and tomorrow you're an artist. No, you're not. You know what I mean? That's the part that kind of deteriorates the art, where anybody could just do it. Like, that's the thing. Like, anybody feels like they could do it. Right. You know, you got to go to school. Like, you don't just say, all right, start cutting people open, you a fucking surgeon. You got to learn. You got to do things to become that. So if you work on your craft and all that and put some time in, you know, then you're an artist. But then the stream shit is just, it's crazy. It's too much.
All right, so there was a very long, complicated answer to your question. Is streaming ruining music? 50-50, it sounds like. Right. All right, so just a couple quick updates before we go. We've been talking about this NBA YoungBoy shooting that happened in Miami over Rolling Loud weekend. So according to Associated Press, him and his team will not be charged in the shooting since they returned fire in self-defense. Law enforcement agencies also investigating whether there's any connection between that shooting and the shooting death of AAB Hella Band's Chicago rapper. That was very unfortunate.
Yeah, the thing about this is like, because a lot of people is trying to give flack about, like, I'm not ragging on NBA YoungBoy. The whole thing is that regardless to if you know, he's cleared in the charges, and of course I don't want him to go to jail, but somebody's life is lost over the whole overall situation. Whether bullets came from this way or that way, somebody died. Another little kid got hurt. My point I'm trying to make is what is it for, end of the day? It's not about me saying, like, he's the worst. They don't got nothing to do with music.
I think the point was just an innocent life was lost. But,
life was lost in this whole situation, you know?
Somebody getting charged for this shit. Got to get charged. I think, and I probably got to look a little bit more into Florida law, but I think if I'm understanding what the cops are saying is that even if the bullet that may have been the fatal bullet that hit the young man who died, even if it came from young boy's side, because they were defending themselves against someone committing a crime against them, and we've seen that before, like in many other cases. If there's going to be charges, even for the bullet that they may have fired, it goes on the other side.
Yeah.
You get me? Y'all started the crime. You get me?
Yeah.
It's like you do a bank robbery and you're speeding and somebody who's in front of you is trying to avoid getting hit and runs into some other shit.
Yeah.
The person who really is at fault is it's a chain of reaction. So for me, I still want justice for the guy who got killed.
Yeah.
He was minding his own business. But again, it's unfortunate, like you're saying, that this situation had to happen.
It happened, yeah.
Because, you know, I saw some even fans saying like, oh, listen, I fuck with young boy, but confrontation that leads to this, it takes two sides. One side could walk away. You know, and when you're actively engaged in that, and we've seen young boy in many cases engaging in confrontations, not walking away, not saying he should, like, I'm not trying to tell people how they should move, but these are things that could happen. It leads to things like that. So you have to take that into account when you see a very tragic incident like that happens, and it's very hard for me to just say, oh no, there's no one, like one side is completely right. No, somebody died.
Yeah, somebody died, right.
And the mere fact that it started from an argument, it started from an altercation between two people, and it wasn't public, it's hard to just say either side is cool.
It's always easy to say that when it ain't your family member.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when it ain't your cousin or your mother, and that just goes to show you how different laws is state to state. Because in New York, that would not be the case at all. You know what I mean? The reason why they're cleared is because whomever on his side fired is probably licensed. You know what I mean? And their laws, their gun laws are lenient if you're authorized. Now, if you in New York, don't you dare try no shit like that, because everybody's going down. Like New York don't play that shit at all. Like everybody would have been charged.
Yeah.
Everybody would have been charged.
Well, the investigation is still ongoing, so we'll see what happens. Just unfortunate situation overall.
Overall.
But, we have to wrap on that. I usually like to end on a lighter note, but not today, unfortunately.
Like a fifth.
No, we gotta roll. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow on Everyday Struggle.
Peace, y'all.